Okay, so here we're going to work with the string library. I have a shell of a program started here for you, and you see at the top I'm including the string library. Um, some environments don't require that you put that include statement there, but not all environments will automatically include it for you. So you should be consistent and always provide it. Some methods will work without it, some will not. Alright, so just better habit to include it. So what I have going on here, I'm going to create a method that validates the user's input to make sure that it's an integer value and that it is truly numeric before it gives you the numeric value. Main is simply going to take the value and display it for you and prompt the user for it. So what I want to go on here in main simply is going to loop at first. So we need an integer here since that's what we're dealing with. Alright, and with a while. So I'm going to keep looping as long as the input from the user is not a numeric value. Alright, so there's a method. The method takes in a reference variable, which will be x for us, and then a prompt. The prompt allows us to use this method for more than one reason or one different type of input, as long as it's an integer that you're looking for. So we keep looping until we get a valid input. Alright, we'll just put a message inside the loop telling me it was invalid. Alright. And then we'll just output the grade once we get the grade back, which would be an X. Alright, so our method returns a boolean, so we gotta get that down here. Returning result is defaulted to false, meaning it's not really an integer input, and it continues. That validation loop could be inside here, but we'll let the program control what it wants to do with the result. Alright, so we send back true or false. At the end we gotta determine whether we need to send it true otherwise. Alright, so what we're going to do in here, we need several variables. Alright, we got a boolean for the return value, the string, which will be an input, which is the thing we're going to check to see if it really can be numeric. Alright, and we're going to use an integer here shortly. That's going to allow us to index through that string. We'll start that guy off at 0, and we're going to set value to 0 also, just to give it make sure it has a value, whether this is true or false. Alright, so proceeding out the prompt. Alright, the prompt the user is providing, which is asking for what type of input they're looking for. And then we use getLine to get the input from the user, which we're going to put in our little temp variable here. Oops, cin goes first. There we go. Alright, semicolon there. Alright, so now we have our input. Now is to check to make sure that everything that's in that input is numeric. It's an integer, so there's no decimal places. We're just looking for digits within the input. So with a simple while loop, we can do that using one of the string library methods called isDigit. It looks at an individual character at a time. And we can treat the the string as an array. Looks like we have too many parentheses going on there. Alright, so we're going to loop while it is a digit, and as long as it's a digit, we're going to increment index by 1, and look at the next character. So we're looking at each character one by one to see if it is a digit. Then at the end we need to determine if the entire thing was numeric. So as long as index is equivalent to the string's length, that means we looked at each character that's in that string to make sure it is a digit. So now we know that it is or can be converted to a numeric value. Now it's simply converting it. Right, so setting it to true tells us that it can be converted. So the while loop in the main will keep looping when it's false, and it will stop once it's valid. So another library method that's out there is this s2i. That's a string to integer function that the string library provides. So we just got to give it temp, and then value will end up with a numeric value. Otherwise, value goes back with a 0, but we're checking the Boolean, which is telling us ignore the value because it's invalid. Once we have that converted, we're all set. So this will now loop until I get a valid grade. Make sure I got no problems in there. Compiling it. Looks good. And there's our window. So if I do an invalid grade, it tells me it's invalid, looking for another one. Some kind of combination. It keeps going. Something valid. Works well. And then we apparently didn't output the grade. Nope, we didn't. Right there. Alright, let's fix that real quick. That would be X. There we go. Alright, so we saw that it does it invalid. Alright, so there's another invalid and something valid. And there's the output. So again, this method is written in a generic way so that it can be used for other types of integer inputs. It's not checking for any doubles or anything else, but you can write a method similar that will do doubles or floats or longs, anything particular. This time, again, showing you the prompt here. Enter the width. Right, so maybe the width of a rectangle or something. Alright, when it's invalid, we're going to say width is invalid, inputting new width. And width is, and we'll output that value. So again, reusing the method, just showing you a little programming trick here. I think I got everything syntactically correct. So there's our program. Enter a grade. Again, we can do something invalid. Okay. Something valid, good. Enter a width, something invalid. Alright, something valid, and the program runs. Alright, so we're validating the inputs. Nice little trick, way to clean up your program, preventing it from crashing. I'm going to show you one other little method that's part of the string library. I'm going to create another string variable called temp2. Alright, and I'm going to set it equal to part of our string. Right, similar output that we have above. Width is, alright, concatenate to it the X value. Alright, and we're going to also concatenate onto it the carriage return. So forming a string here, using the concatenation operator for a string, which is the plus sign. And then we're going to output temp2 there, put another carriage return on it. Alright, so nothing new there, nothing fancy yet. I'll show you what it does before I add that new method in. Alright, so we know all this has been working, so valid grade, valid width of 77. Alright, and there's that from original output, the width is 77, but you see a blank line there. And that's because it didn't know what to do here with all this concatenation to a string. So the C++ library provides a method in the string library called toString, and it will convert any numeric value to a actual string variable or value. Right? No longer numeric after that point. So now when this runs, the string should print properly. Right, enter a grade, enter a width, and there you see the width coming out twice.